you're able to do a lot of these things, and they may just have to be done slightly differently depending on where you're doing them. But as long as you know it's possible with Google, anything like that, calling a friend, you'll be able to figure out the steps to get there. But so I want you to see what is available out there now. All right. All right, so just real quick, a little bit about myself. My name is Sladjana Stone. I go by Jaja. I was originally born in Bosnia in Eastern Europe. I moved to Germany when I was about 6. If anybody remembers, there was a civil war in Yugoslavia in the early 90s. So my family left that for greener pastures. And after Germany, we immigrated to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. So that's how I ended up US citizen, and I'm excited to be here. After Gettysburg, I got my undergraduate business degree in New York City. And after that, I joined the Peace Corps, and I lived in Madagascar for 2 years, working with subsistence farmers, helping them just gain skills to be able to go to market. What should they be growing, as well as like the women weavers, how can they add some color to their design to make it more wanted in the bigger cities and the bigger markets that were paying more money for these types of products. After the Peace Corps, I made my way back to the US, and I moved from Gettysburg to Baltimore. And in Baltimore, I managed a hoop farm, an urban city farm. And during that time, I really fell in love with the city. My husband now, he lived here for a decade beforehand, went to Goucher, and really helped me fall in love and learn the city more. Right now, like David said, I just graduated from Johns Hopkins with my master's, and I work downtown at the harbor with T. Rowe Price. I'm an analyst. My specialty is analyzing business processes. So being able to break down the small processes, put numbers behind them to understand how can we be quicker, how can we build better quality products, and all of those nuances in between. The little monster in the middle, that's my daughter, Marty. She's 4 years old, so that keeps me pretty busy these days. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see my daughter, Marty, and my father, Ziad. He owns a small business up in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, Hanover area. He does recycled concrete and other landscape material. So when a construction site tears something down, they bring it to his site for recycling. He basically crushes those giant pieces and resells them as recycled small concrete that is then used again in roadways and building construction. So it's a really nice sustainability, recycle focused business. And a lot of what we do is we use free programs, free software that I'm going to tell you about to manage his business, especially for somebody like my father who is not as technologically inclined. All right, so that's about me, but I'm a little curious if some of our business owners could come off mute and maybe tell us a little bit about yourself so that I'm able to more appropriately tailor the session to you all. So I'm curious, how many years of business ownership, what type of industry are you in? And when I say Excel, you say yay or no. So just curious about you all a little bit. Isha, I see you're off mute.
Any takers? Usually small businesses are happy to tell us about their business. Just pipe up.
I'll start. My name is Farhad Nasser-Gotsi. I'm the owner and CEO of Norfolk Business Consulting. We are in Gaithersburg, Maryland. My company does mobile, IoT, telematics, SaaS, and digital advertising. So when I saw this, I thought this is in my alley because I do a lot of softwares I offer to my clients as well. I've been in business since 2018, helping small to mid-sized businesses get access to mobile technology. And I do know a little bit about Excel.
Thank you, Farhad.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Cliff for
Anybody
Cynthia.
else? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna call out Cliff for Cynthia. Okay, no worries.
Okay, shy crowd.
Yeah.
How you guys doing? Sorry, I'm gonna try and minimize my background so I can get on. My name is Danielle. I'm with Connie's Care Residential Assisted Living. We are a startup company focusing on memory care, more things of that nature. I have been in business since 2018, but I was managing other facilities and other small assisted living facilities, helping with their books, things of that nature. More so policies and procedures, things of that nature, getting staffing on board is where I usually play my role now. I want to have my own residence. I've been GNA, providing bedside care for over 10 years, assisted living manager, CPR instructor. So the healthcare is my field. I've been in the medical industry for over 15 years, even though I'm young, people don't understand. What, 15 years? Yes, I've been doing this since 15. So that's basically where we are. Again, we're Connie's Care Assisted Living, and we'll be starting up soon.
Thank you, welcome.
Good afternoon.
Cliff,
Good
welcome.
afternoon. Thank you. My name is Clifton Stafford. I'm the CEO of His Business Transportation. We are a freshly, newly started company. We are a carrier and delivery company. We also do junk removal and movements of small furniture from the customer to customer, from business to business, or from business to customer. We are in the Nottingham area, mainly Baltimore. And we have been in business since 2020, but we're just getting started as far as hitting the ground running.
Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Whitaker. I am a certified professional life coach. My company's name is Honor Your Path, and I am here to serve as women who are wanting to live a more fulfilling life, more authentically, with resilience and courage. And I've been in business since 2014.
Awesome. Welcome, Cynthia, Clifford, Connie. I'm muting and unmuting because I'm also crunching lettuce in between bites.
Excellent, thank you all for sharing. All right, so some of us, obviously Farhad, little probably more technologically software advanced than the average user, but what I want to point out today is that there are so many things that are available to you, and a lot of those things can be free. Especially when you're first getting started, you may not have the ability to be paying for something like QuickBooks that may be more intensive, and you need something where you're able to keep these records for tax purposes, legal purposes, as well as for just managing your business on a day-to-day basis. So I started off with kind of what I consider the essential knowledge base of what's available to you. If you may be Apple-based, you may be Microsoft-based, but the majority of our systems focus around either a Microsoft base or a Google type of availability of product. If you are looking at Microsoft, in that same family of products, you have your Outlook, which is how you're receiving your emails, and then OneDrive. OneDrive is the cloud arm of Microsoft, where you're able to store your documents and do some additional things, but mainly that's kind of a storage hub for you as well. That same type of methodology exists in Google as well. So you have your Google, if you have, you're able to look anything up, right? But then you may also have a Gmail account. Under any type of Gmail account, you're also able to access Google Drive. Google Drive has the document storage that you need, but you'll also see there's a whole set of products that go along with that, and they're all free to access. If you have safety concerns about your client's data, anything like that, you may want to start using something that's more paid, like pCloud or sync.com, where there are going to be more back-end security measures than the standard software. And then to some of more of the advanced essentials. So these you'll have to start paying for these types of services and software, but depending on the size of your business and at the maturity of your business, it may be a proper step to take. When we managed the farm in Baltimore City, we had about 6 employees, and we did start to use QuickBooks because everybody was able to download it on their phone. They could directly put in receipts for any expenses, and it made the going to tax season very easy and family friendly. We were able to give people business cards, all of those details that was able to come together in QuickBooks. If you're getting to that point where you have multiple employees, you may want to start thinking about paying for a software like QuickBooks that is all comprehensive and allows you to do a lot of what I'm going to show you at a smaller level that you can also do manually. I did want to put in a plug for social media and Google Business and just the vast availability of advertising that is available for small businesses. Start off on the left is Google My Business. This is how I put my father's business out there and created some basic SEO, search engine optimization. So via Google My Business, you're able to log on and create a profile for your business. You're able to adjust the hours, who they're calling, what types of those buttons are available there. And it's very intuitive. It'll walk you through it, and you just have to associate your business with a certain email. You're able to add pictures that you want and all of those details. I think this is very important. My father has a lot of businesses that come from out of state that don't know people locally, and the only thing they do is Google. They look for websites and they look for phone numbers via Google to be able to reach somebody because they don't know the area at all. So that is a free service that Google offers. And I would say would kind of be something you definitely want to look into. On the right-hand side, all the different logos, that is mostly social media. So we're all aware it's out there. It's a wonderful tool for you to reach customers, for you to network, anything like that. My only suggestion would be to use it appropriately. You know, if your business doesn't need Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat and all of the above, you know, maybe you only need a Facebook page because that can serve as your website or how people contact you. You know, and maybe you're more comfortable not having any of those and really keeping a much more professional approach. And towards the bottom, you have Squarespace and Wix. Those are website building softwares. Wix is a free for anybody to use. It's almost like a blog atmosphere, but much more user-friendly. And the design is way more advanced towards what an actual website would look like. that is free to use. I highly suggest Squarespace. Squarespace will cost under $200 per year for a business. And it's a really great website building service. If you don't feel like you have enough skills to navigate one of these sites, try to reach out to somebody who maybe they're a little bit younger and they're just more comfortable experiencing these different types of softwares, and they'd be willing to work with you. Family member, maybe even somebody just in, working on their undergrad, I would expect would have enough technical skills to be able to navigate how to build a website through Squarespace. I'll pause here real quick and kind of see, does anybody have any questions? Are there any of these tools that you're using right now that you're struggling with? Farhad?
I think it's worth to mentioning that the Google My Business, the most important part is the review part of it. Because nowadays, anybody before purchasing any kind of products or services, they want to know that how many people are testifying, how many people are approving that business before they order or they use their services. So that's very important for any small business to have that Google My Business and emphasize on that review part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I even find my doctors via reviews now. So I don't think any industry is insulated from that need. Thank you. All right, so I wanted to kind of stick with the same theme that I had before, which is Microsoft versus Google. And we're now kind of diving into what are more of the details of these softwares. Microsoft 365, or what they call kind of the suite of Office tools, includes programs like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and OneDrive. So some of those we already talked about. Word is probably your most basic, being able to kind of construct a beautiful page. PowerPoint, what we're using right now for this presentation, and they all kind of go together. A lot of those products you can purchase as a bundle. You can purchase them individually or as a business with multiple users, and that kind of stuff. They make it very affordable. But as a startup business, there are also ways to use these products in a free manner. So if you have Outlook, you have a email with Microsoft, which is free to set up online. You can also access all of those products via their online platform, and I'll show you how to do that. That's very similar to Google, which, like you said, if you go into your Gmail, you kind of have the drop-down option to also go to Google Drive, Google Sheets, Google Slides. And Google Sheets is the basically Excel version of Google. So the similar capabilities, different softwares, and different methods to access them. All right, and I think we just had questions, so I'll keep going unless anybody has anything.
Actually, Judge, I have a question. I'm just curious. I've never used Google Sheets, so which one do you prefer? I'm pretty familiar with the Excel, but not the Google Sheets. So
Yeah, I prefer Excel because you have a lot more capability. And you'll notice too, if you're using Excel via online, via the cloud, there's a lot less capability as well. So I think Google is kind of like that, where the Google Sheets, you can do the basic aspects, but you can't maybe make it as pretty, and you can't quite do as much formula and manipulation.
thank you.
All right. So now what we want to focus on today in particular is Microsoft Excel. And I'll show you the different versions, the Google Sheets of Excel as we kind of dive into it. But Microsoft Excel is probably one of the most widely used softwares in business. While most businesses are going to have the availability of this Microsoft 360 suite of products. And then most companies will stop there. Like they're not going to go above and beyond and get softwares that are specific to data analytics unless it's a very large company and they have a specific need for a specific software. Excel covers so many different use cases and abilities that it's really kind of a one-stop shop for most businesses. Okay, so let me exit out of that. So this is what an Excel sheet looks like just when I'm accessing it via my computer Excel app. Now, I've historically always gotten these through school. I've always had free access to all of these products, which has been nice. So hopefully I won't have to start paying for that. But most often, these also come with any laptop that you're going to purchase. So you see it just like any other application. You can kind of move it around. You have the file options, the save, everything like that. The other way that I did want to point out is right here is that same sheet, but in Google Sheets. So I went to my Gmail. I was able to go to my Google Drive. In my Google Drive, I uploaded this Excel sheet. You could just as easily, you can say new Google Sheet. And this is kind of that basic spreadsheet that you're going to be accessing via Google Sheets. This is the same process for Microsoft. So if you were getting your Outlook email, you would go over to OneDrive, and then you would access Excel via OneDrive. So very similar, just different ways of doing it. So I'll switch over here to my desktop version of Excel. And then, all right. So here at the bottom, I'll show you some of the different sheets we have, and please feel free to slow me down or ask questions while we're going through this. In the top here, you'll have, so up here is kind of the basic home option, insert page layout formulas. It's the overarching ability to do something. These options, especially file, you'll see in any and all major softwares. So if you're getting confused, try to go back to the basics of what is the overlying and then the underlying details of what you're able to do. So here in Excel, we have these are called cells. You can do writing in any given cell. You can say equals, and then you can do 8 times 5 or equals 9 plus 5 and do basic arithmetic. If you go over to formulas, you can see the ability to insert functions, and I'm only bringing this up because then you're able to see what different types of functions are available to you. So if I go to the all, you can see you can do cosine of a number. You can do the average of a number. And then, it only gets more complicated, binomial distributions of those numbers. So those are all of the ones that are available. If you don't know, you can always kind of come to this list to see it, or you can simply put that in by doing average or median of 5, 5, etc. The equals ability of Excel allows you to do formulas, but also refer to other cells within the Excel workbook. So you can say, oh, it equals that, and you can replicate what's over there as well. So it's excellent for record keeping, keeping notes, client lists, managing your books, building invoices, doing simple calculations and also very advanced calculations, as well as putting in graphs. So hopefully we'll have some time to maybe build some graphs together as well. So down here at the bottom, where I'm clicking, let me just draw a shape quick around that. These are called your different tabs. Tabs can be created by clicking on the plus sign. And oh, there we go. And that will always create sheet 1 is usually how it starts. You can right click that to rename it, anything you'd like. I believe you can also color them. Yep, you can give them different colors so that you know, okay, anything blue is related to finances and things like that. I wanted to start with just a basic client list. I think this is something that will be applicable to any business. This can be as simple as, okay, here's the name and address, but you can also do something as advanced as when is this anniversary of when they were first my client? Or is there a specific date that I want to keep in mind? And maybe that date is coming up. So being able to say 6 months before this anniversary date, turn this client name red. That is something that is possible in Excel, and you can easily set up for yourself. Something I always keep track of is, do they receive email invoices or do they just want paper invoices? Are there any specific contact informations, anything like that? By building out your client list here, you're also able to then later come back to this and say, okay, well, refer to my client list. So my next example here on the tabs is an example invoice. So then here I can come in on a monthly basis. It's already set up to be a 1-pager, so it's easy for me to do file print or file save as PDF and email to my clients. And then you can start to set up some ways to make this easier for yourself. So for example, the client list we had, I added as a list in here, so I don't need to type those names every single time. I just select who the client is that I'm billing that month. The way to do that is to click on the cell that you want to be using. You go to data. Under data validation, you can allow a list to be entered into that field. And then you look for that list right here. And then, so I'll add in here, data validation list. And that will give you something to reference back to. And actually, instead of having it in there, I'm going to go up to review and I'm going to add a new comment. So when David sends this out to everybody afterwards, you'll be able to come to this sheet and you'll be able to go to this and you'll say, oh, how did she do that? And then the steps will be here and you can see, okay, I need to go to review and I can put all those details in. Data validation to add that list. That is really helpful if there are things that you don't want somebody messing up. Say there's like, I only want you using these 3 list names, then it's perfect because it actually doesn't allow you to put anything what's outside of that list. Right below that, I've put in a VLOOKUP formula, which is looking up a value in a specific field. So this is saying, look up B10 under the client list and tell me the value that's 1 column to the right of that, which if you see in our client list is the address for that client. So this way you're able to kind of quickly add that address as well as the name of the client. And the idea being that you're spending less time copy and pasting and missing things, and you're allowing the software to do that for you. All right, on this page, I also want to show the view capability. So on the other tabs, we are in a normal view. This here is a page break view, which allows you to kind of see, well, how would this page look if it was being printed out without going into that? These blue lines, you're able to adjust those. And then it kind of tells you, well, your page is going to get cut off here. So this will actually be your page 2, your page 3, and your page 4. You are able to move those around. So you can say, well, that's how I want it to look. And I don't need those other pages. So I just want it to look like that when it prints. And that way is a way to kind of do some design and formatting in a program that really is meant to be doing data and formulas. All right. Very much like the client list, a simple to-do list. You know, and the reason I put this here is if you have employees that are working with you, it would be easy to add an owner field on the side to say, okay, Josh is responsible for XYZ. I expect it to be done by this date, and it helps them stay organized as well as yourself. Additionally, something I do is time to complete a task. Cynthia, you know, you're a life coach. If you're going in here, you're putting the associated clients, which you can do via the list. Now you're able at the end of a month to also come in and say, oh, well, what's all the work that we did for Third Eye and how many hours did we spend working with them? In a lot of these, what I've done is I've kind of given these headers. I've just selected them. I've made them bold. And then I've gone in and I've given them filter ability. So I'm saying that I want to be able to filter, which also allows you to do a sort to kind of say, okay, well, maybe I want to see where am I spending the most hours at doing what and with who. Some other examples that I didn't quite put on here, but you could run your timesheets. If you have employees, you could build a timesheet template, very much like an invoice for people to fill out. And then you could be coming back in here, filling those in, or even you could be sharing an actual Google Sheet with your employees, and they can be filling it in live in the sheet rather than you having to then come back in and do it via hand. I know we have some marketing folks, so I also wanted to show, I figured this wasn't too relevant for everybody, but this is a marketing calendar example. And a lot of things like this are available online for free. So if you're saying like, oh man, like I really just need a great way to manage my client list, you can easily Google client list Excel and find many, many free examples of build outs like this. This looks fancy, but really it's just the coloring of a table. They've built this and colored it nicely, so it looks like it's doing a lot, but it's very simple once you start to break it down, that they've put the types of marketing that's occurring, and then over a time span of when they expect that to occur. All right, I'll pause right there and then see if anyone has questions. And then I have the profit and loss example as well. Does that feel manageable for everybody, or have I lost anybody along the way? And what I'll do too is I'll make sure this sheet is available for everybody, so that when you go into here, you can see all of these little tidbits. We'll have the comments on them, so you're able to hover over that and see how it was really done. All right. Before I start, David, you want to say anything about the P&L? All right. So if you've been working with BCL, or have had to do taxes for your business, you most likely have already done a profit or loss statement. This is a very popular. Oh, go ahead, David.
I'm sorry, Judge. I was trying to get my unmute there. So yes, this is very important to the BCL process. So please make sure if you're working with us, pay attention. If you have any questions, we'd definitely like to make sure we answer your questions there.
Yep. So the P&L in business terms is just a very popular statement because it gives people a lot of information right off the bat about your business without them having to kind of dive in. Like I said, if you've done taxes on your business, you would have the Schedule C profit or loss statement. You can go, all of this stuff is mostly digital now, but you should be able to go to your accountant or software that you used yourself and pull down this statement to build a prettier version of this profit and loss. So starting off from the top, we're going to have the dates here. I've done 3 year, I think 2 to 3 years is usually a standard amount of time. But you would also just give whatever you have if you only have 1 year. It's going to start off with the net sales of your business. And yeah, I don't believe that's on this sheet, but that should be on the other sheet of your taxes. Then it's going to go to the cost of goods sold, which is also your cost of sales. It's anything that's directly related to the production of your business. So that could be your direct salary, most likely. And then anything that's really kind of a necessary part of building the product or service that you sell. those two are subtracted from each other for your gross profit, which you'll also see down here as the line item 5 on your taxes on this sheet. And then all of your operating expenses. You'll see that on the second part here of the taxes. And I use the categories that taxes are broken down into. You could theoretically have your own type of categories that you wanted. Eventually, you'll have to roll them up to these types of categories, but you can always do that towards the end at tax season time. So then all of these expenses are what's listed here as expenses, and you can look to see how much you accrued throughout the year. This here is a summation of all of these numbers. So that's a fun, because you just go sum, parentheses, and then you can kind of drag and just select all of those numbers. And then what I've done is I've also just dragged that formula this way, and it replicates that formula throughout those.
The one thing that I would recommend is making sure that you complete this on a quarterly basis and review that on a quarterly basis. One of the things that can help you identify is some inefficiencies in your business. If you can reduce cost in certain areas, you'll know where you're spending your money. So if you have some type, use this program or use QuickBooks or what have you, you can definitely utilize that for your business and make you run more efficiently.
And also knowing where your biggest funds are going, you know, maybe there's specific taxes that you have to be paying at a specific time, knowing that's coming up, you know, and anywhere you can decrease is good. And then the end is the profit or loss, which is your gross profit minus your total expenses. So I'll pause right there and see if anybody has questions. Go ahead.
I don't know if you're going to cover this or not, but cash flow is also another most important part for any small businesses. So they know how much money they're going to have, so they can budget basically what's going to happen. So I don't know if you have that in your presentation or not.
I don't think I have that, but I do have something I want to share, which I'm curious to see what you think. So here is kind of a use case of how I would be using Excel on a quarterly basis as a small business. You can go into your bank accounts. So if you're not able to afford QuickBooks, you can go into your bank accounts and you can download history of your transactions. So you can say, here is all the money I've been spending, assuming that you're using your card for everything business related. So if you go into your bank account, you're able to say, give me a list of that history. And it was these 4 columns that I downloaded from my bank yesterday. And then what I've done is I've added a category filter here. In that category, I've added the same list of my possible expenses to say, okay, well, that will roll up to my P&L in this type of expense. So I'm not worried about that. So then as I'm going through every month, I'm looking at this to say, okay, it's rolling up to this. And then I can go to my P&L. I can say, okay, in 2022, I'm going to do sum if. So sum this range, if this category equals this category. And then I'm going to do this. Get it. Give me 1 second. But I'm saying sum if it's in advertising. So then throughout the year, as long as you're categorizing, you're then able to sum up those amounts within those categories at any given time. And like David said, you could split it from year also down to quarter. So obviously this is a good bit of manual intervention, being able to kind of tally where your finances are going. But in the end, it's able to help you build the cash flow statements, the P&L, and ultimately also file your taxes much quicker at the end of the year. So I'll pause right there and kind of see what everybody thinks. Is anybody maintaining Excel sheets for their business currently? I'm curious.
I am, but mainly like as it pertains to budgeting and keeping up with balances of different like credit cards and things of that sort under the business.
Great. Are you using any kind of like categorization ability to build graphs for yourself or anything like that?
Usually I know with QuickBooks it usually exports the categories,
Mhm.
but I haven't mapped it out to that degree yet.
Well, on that note, let's see if we can insert a recommended chart. So Excel has all these chart capabilities. You can always start with just what do you recommend? So within insert the chart, you can say just what do you recommend Excel that I put in? So off the bat, it's saying let's do a bar chart. You can also say, well, I kind of like lines better over time. We'd have to add the date. So let's do just column to start. So in the small data set I had, the rent was our biggest expense, and you can see by a large amount. In this plus capability, you have a lot of different capabilities to remove different accesses, include the data labels, a full maybe data table, or error bars to see kind of what is the range that you're in. At the same time, you can kind of pretty it up with some different colors, or if you prefer black. And just as easily, you can also adjust these. That's a way to add graphs, but keep it simple. Here it went onto a different sheet. You could also easily copy this and come back to your spending details and kind of add it on the same sheet. If you wanted it all in one view as well. Yeah, and I see you're saying you're using the lists and everything. The lists are really good. Being able to kind of, I found the biggest help was anytime I'm able to kind of cross-reference something I've already written, where I'm not having to go back and do something new, retype it, redo the same type of work. That's when I was starting to save the most time and become a lot less frustrated with items that needed repeating constantly.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's basically where it kind of, I'm using them for. It helped me a lot with my research, getting up with that information, like the employee prospects and things like that. Like you said, the list saved me a lot of time redoing stuff, especially my numbers over as well, putting in my data input and yeah, recalculating things of that nature. It definitely helped with the expenses. I just didn't know how to categorize it. It's not that I don't know how to categorize it. It's just that I don't have that. I necessarily am not in business yet. So I don't have actual information to input in those particular spaces. So I definitely get it. And thank you for breaking this down for us.
Yeah, and two, it's like the P&L, it's really going to be specific to your business. You know, maybe the majority is actually all just in other because, you know, my father's business, he has no rent because he's paid the land off. So his is primarily in car and truck expenses. So it's all dependent on where you are and kind of how to build that out for yourself. To bring back to Bonnie's original issue with Excel about different types of data that you're inputting into it. So you can put a number and that number can be referred to as currency or a date or even text. So in your home option of Excel, you will have this kind of drop down to say, well, it'll always start as a general type of number or input, and then you can adjust that. So here I've made all of these currency because I want to see the dollar sign in front of it. And it kind of starts to standardize that number a little bit more. Here, up here, you'll see this is general, but I can also make this a date formula. And then if you go further into that, you can adjust that date to be a specific format. If you get comfortable, you're able to Google very custom formats of what that looks like. Maybe you only care about the month and year or something that isn't available to you in these standard frames. Likewise, if you're lucky enough, you can always go up to number and you can put these in custom number formats to say like, maybe it only shows in the millions or thousands so that you're not seeing the smaller numbers all the time as well. One thing I will show is this is also just something I started typing and I kind of made the top bold and some of these side ones bold to give it a little bit of oomph. But you could always come in here and you can always say format this as a table. And then you have these different options for how you would like that to look. So I'm saying, yes, this is the area that I want. And let's see how it looks when they do something like that. Like, oh, well, I don't really like those colors, you can always kind of adjust that as well. With financial statements, it's usually good to just go as simple as possible. But once you're doing anything for maybe you're trying to get a new client or anything like that, you could pretty it up, add some color, anything like that. All right, so those were all the live examples that I had and wanted to show. I am happy to answer questions and give more details, or if there are any other specific examples that anybody would like to go through, be happy to do that as well.
I have one for you, Judge. Pulling data from another spreadsheet. So if I have one Excel sheet, I want to pull data into from one download to another.
Okay, great. Yep. So I have 2 Excel sheets open right now, that marketing calendar I was showing and our template. Down here at the bottom where our tabs are, if it's say the P&L, so you can move the entire sheet, for example. You could say move or copy. And then I would say, well, actually I wanted to go over to the marketing calendar. And I want to move it to the end. And I always do create a copy just to be safe in case you lose it. That will move that entire sheet over to this marketing calendar as a new tab. Similarly, you could just select what you want to copy, or even select the entire sheet with this little upper hand, and then just do Control C for copy. You start a new sheet and Control V to paste. So I like the functionality of being able to copy the whole sheet. That way too, if you're say building multiple types of invoices or anything like that, you could even do it in the same sheet and it would keep all the formulas and everything like that for you. For the spending details, most likely you would want to keep it in. So when I downloaded it on my bed, they had these kind of blank columns in here. I would just keep it in that format because it's less work. And then when I go to get the next sheet, I can just copy and I can just paste, I'll copy the other ones and then I can directly paste that below and it's already in the setup that I have. And I just have to go in and pick my appropriate categories. This conditional formatting ability under the home option is one of my favorites. It's a very quick way to kind of identify some numbers or abilities. So if you have a list of clients, you can say, okay, well, highlight any duplicate values for me and fill them with light red. So I'll do it here so you can see. Highlight with light red. Or you can do I always want to highlight the top 10% of my spending in red. This way you start to just kind of quickly, and then too, if you're adding new numbers here, it's going to apply that same conditional formatting because you've done it on this whole thing. Then very quickly, if you have this by month or anything like that, you can start to have that number pop out at you. Where are my biggest expenses going? I guess in our instance, it would be bottom 10%. Any other questions or things that you're struggling with, maybe that you're looking for a solution for?
I did have one thought. I don't know if this would be helpful to anyone or not, but and I've been kind of coming going. So did you, I don't know if you covered sort of how to search through when you're doing search for particular information. Like when I'm searching something in a column, I'm inclined to mess up everything. And, you know, I end up reorganizing one column, but not everything. So then it's all not right again. And I have to just keep going, you know, undo, undo, undo. Until I think I'm back to where I started.
Yeah.
So I think that would be helpful if you could sort of show us how to effectively search.
Yeah.
You know,
So two ways come to mind. Right off the bat, you can do Control F to find something. So you have the default option is it'll be within this sheet, find it, which is this sheet here, but you can also expand that to your workbook. So I can say, okay, well, anytime I see John's from John's Automotive, I want to be able to find that. And it's going to go throughout the sheet to show me where that information is. So that's a good way if you're like, I don't even know where to start to look for this. Control F, look throughout the whole workbook or even just within that sheet. And then really to avoid things getting so jumbled, the best way to do that is to use the filter ability of Excel. So when you are ready to do that sort, you would select this entire row and go to sort and filter and make sure that this filter capability is selected. If I unselect that, you'll notice those little boxes are now gone.
okay.
So the important part there is you can do that filter, but then if you start adding other reasons, that is not part of that same row of filters now. You'd have to kind of undo it and redo it to grab that new column.
Okay.
So now those line items will always stay together. And now you can, you know, you can say like, well, I want everyone in the 2120, you know, whatever zip code. You could do that via this search and everything will stay lined together.
Okay.
Yeah,
And it stays like that until you,
yes,
okay.
until you undo this filter.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I used to do like a lot of custom sorts and
Mhm.
that can get very confusing.
Yeah.
So if you want multiple reasons, but two, if you're doing A to Z and then, you know, sort that, it should all kind of stay and be good enough for you.
Okay. That's really helpful. That just eliminates a lot of my stress with using Excel right there. Because that's something that I struggle with a lot. And it seems like, you know, again, because I'm sort of self-taught, I get it right once and then I can't remember how I got it right the last time because it took me so many tries to get it right. I don't remember how I did it. And then the only other question I had is if there are shortcuts that would be helpful to know, like, for example, if you have a formula in a column, I know you can click on that bottom corner and drag it across the row. And I know not everybody knows that, and that's just one. I'm sure there are other kind of shortcuts like that that might be helpful to know about too. Now, this is a list, but I mean, if you're doing like a budget or something and you want to drag a formula, you know, across a column, that kind of thing, how, if there are other shortcuts similar to that and that one too.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll try to see how many I can kind of think off the top of my head.
Uh-huh.
Definitely the ability to kind of drag anything to replicate it. If so, the drag option works for formulas or just anything that's written somewhere.
Right.
So you're able to drag that 15 down, but then you can also say, well, I want to fill series it. I want it to go up by 1 every single time. So that way you're able to say too, if you
Oh.
just have like 1, 2, 3, you know, that you can just quickly do that, and you can copy it or you can fill series it. So it goes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7
Oh,
as you may
okay. I
need.
didn't know that. That's cool.
So that's helpful. And then, so same as you said before, if that's a date, it will
Uh-huh.
do it across the dates as well.
Okay.
You know, if you're in a monthly, it'll do it monthly. If you're in a value, if you have a formula, it will replicate that formula.
Okay.
So it works for kind of anything that you may have in a cell, and you can go up or down or side to side.
Awesome.
That formula will always be replicated. So here it's B4, B6. The next one is C4, C6.
Right.
Unless I do something like I put this, those little dollar signs,
Mhm.
they say to Excel, always use that column and that number. So now B4 will be constant, but B6 will change.
We'll go to C6. Oh, this is okay. See, this is exactly what I was talking about. This is very, very helpful.
So this is really good if you're like, oh, I have a specific interest rate on a loan, and now I want to do different calculations with that interest rate.
Right.
That interest rate is always going to sit in that one cell. So you'll use those dollar signs to tell Excel that is the exact column. I don't want it to change as I drag, but I do want it to change the second value as
Right.
I.
Perfect. Any other secrets?
Well, and you can do that for the number or like just the column or just the number as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's dragging. Yeah, a lot of autofill kind of options. I believe they also have like your most recently used formulas if you're always using kind of the same ones to help you with that.
Okay.
I did kind of want to make a plug for comments as well. The ability to add a new comment, delete, look at what they are, always have them showing. That's a good way for teams to communicate with each other. You know, in most of these, you're able to say, hey, Jacqueline, why is this going on? And if she's part of the organization, she's going to be tagged within this workbook. And especially when you're on something like Google here, where you're like sharing this with other people, it will then tag them to say like, they'll get an email that says, hey, your name has been mentioned in this workbook. Go check out what the comment is. And it's a good way to kind of ping people and say like, hey, is this part of the document still relevant or not?
Right. Okay.
We did the page break view, the data validation, which the list is a really good start for that field, but you see you have other abilities to do with the data validation. The ability to kind of group and ungroup certain columns. So in this same data field, you're able to group these details, and then you can just kind of quickly close them so that they're not always in your view, but you can access them anytime you want.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay. Well, those were very helpful. Thank you, Jaja.
Yeah, so I hope everybody learned a little something, got some tidbits. Yeah, and I'm happy to go through more ideas or examples or stick on if anybody wants to talk one-on-one more. But I hope it's been helpful and that you've seen some of the vast capability that Excel offers.
Well, thank you, Judge. I definitely learned a couple of things, so I appreciate it. I hope everyone else benefited from this presentation. Any questions before we close out? Please ask now. I mean, it's important to your business. Shall I say the success of your business?
Mhm.
Also, you'll see my email on the screen. If you don't quite feel comfortable asking in front of others, please feel free to reach out to myself, or I'm sure David could answer your questions as well.
Thank you so much. And I do want to add that anyone who signed up on, what is it? Is it Eventbrite? Was it Eventbrite?
Yes, Eventbrite.
Eventbrite, yep.
Yeah, we
Thank
have your email address and we'll be emailing you a link to the recording, right?
Yes, correct. Yes.
Is that right? Is that correct? All right.
Yeah, the event was recorded.
Okay.
So yes, we will email it out.
And David, if you'll wait for me on that email, I'll make sure that you have a link to this Google Sheet that you can access at any point, the Excel document as well, to kind of go back and reference how we did some of the things today.
Yeah, perfect. I think that'll help.
Yeah, and if you could send that to me so I can send that out in the email, Jaja.
Sure. Thank
Thank
you. Melissa.
Well, for my sake, I just want to say this has been really great and I really appreciate it. I think it was super helpful. The trouble with a lot of this is that it's not something that there's really an opportunity to learn until you're in the middle of trying to do it yourself. It's hard to find this kind of help somewhere. So, I really appreciate your time and your insights.
Yeah, thank you all. And, never be afraid to Google. That is any developer's best friend, to really see like, well, I know it's possible. I just need to be reminded, even when Microsoft updates every few years, it's like, well, now I got to figure those steps out again.
Right.
So we're all always learning.
Yeah. So you mean I just can't email you?
Yeah.
Right. Google first, email Jaja second.
Yes.
Well, thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining.
All right, we'll close it out. Everyone have a great day. Thanks for participating.
Thank you.
All right, Judge. Thank you. Great job.
Yes, thank you. I really, really do appreciate that. I'm gonna, actually, if you're around, do you have a minute to chat
Yeah.
after this? Okay. Tell me your number so I can call you because instead of me finding it.
Are you stuck? 717
Uh-huh.
586
Okay.
5049.
Okay. I'll give you a call in a minute.